Hello and welcome to Anteambulo. This is episode number 2. Today we have Umashankar. He's a colleague of mine. He works in the HPC team at AMD. But today we are here to discuss something that is very close to his heart. When I was talking to him, right, the insights that he had, the way the conversation led, I thought this is a conversation that everyone must listen to. So here we have Umashankar. Welcome, Umashankar. Introduce yourself and then we can get started.
Hey Lalit, thanks for having me. I'm Umashankar. I work as an HPC engineer at AMD, and uh, here we are here to discuss about all the audiophile terms and what it means to be an audiophile. You know, Let me just begin off with a story where I would like to present a case or a scenario of what an audiophile is, right? uh, think about this. You are walking down the street, you hear a baby crying, you hear some cars honking, you hear some birds chirping, right? And you think, and then you subconsciously or consciously, you kind of take in all those audios as inputs. As humans, we are wired to listen to all of them. We may process them, we may not process them. That's a different story. But when you hear them, right, and then you kind of understand, oh, this baby is crying from behind me, or this baby is crying in front of me, right? So you're able to identify the position of the audio. So that's one characteristic. So you're able to pick out the characteristics of the audio. You may be able to pick out the shrillness of the audio, say some baby screeching or some women screeching, right? And you would say, okay, why is someone screeching, why are they shouting, right? So you pick out the shrillness of the audio. This is all it means to be an audiophile. There's nothing much to it. You understand the technicality of it, you perceive audio in a very in a greater magnitude, and you say, okay, i- there is characteristics to audio.
Perfect. So talk us through what where you started, because the reason I'm asking you this is, let's say I want to start, right? Should I buy the most expensive gadget out there, or can I use my own phone? Can I use things lying around me, right? So if someone listens to your journey, then they get a better context as to how to start, and where what is the direction that one should pursue in becoming an audiophile, in understanding audio, becoming a master at audio, right? So just talk us through your journey.
No, that's a very good question. Talking about one's journey really helps someone. I mean, you or me or even someone else to understand what goes through being an audiophile, right? So my journey, I started out being an audiophile without even knowing I was an audiophile. It was mostly when I was a kid. I used to listen to a lot of EDMs. I used to listen to a lot of bass-heavy songs, and I used to think that's all there is to music. So just put on boom boom and then listen to music. I mean, very recently I came across some music which presented which presented itself in a very different way, and I was astonished. To give you a perspective, think about driving in a Maruti 800 and then suddenly driving an Audi car, right? So the jump from Maruti 800 to an Audi car. So this was how the music was presented to me. It was not even about the gear. It was just about how the music was presented to me in my very own 300 400 rupees earphones. Um, that's when I kind of realized, that's when I kind of took an interest in music and saying, oh, okay, so you can listen to such music and get interest out of it. So yeah.
What is the characteristic that you're referring to? What changed, right? Like, what was the difference between that low end production and high end production? Can you talk us through that?
So in all the bass heavy music, right, you would have just the bass, just the low frequency, the low notes, and it's just boom boom and that's it, right? But in a very high quality production, you would have the vocalist, you would have the instruments, you would be able to pick out the separation of the vocalist as well as the instruments. And this is what a really good mix is. And no matter what kind of audio gear you listen to, you will be able to instantly appreciate that kind of music. Say for example, if you listen to an AR Rahman music or any vintage Hindi Bollywood music, you will be able to pick out these tiny details, very tiny details quickly. And that's what gives you the appreciation of music. And that's what being an audiophile is. Again, going back to my initial thoughts, is that you kind of take joy or take pride in identifying this music, trying to pick out where an instrument is played. Say for example, if I'm listening to music here, and if there's piano played somewhere behind, and if my gear is able to accurately present that to me, you kind of get that joy of saying, oh, okay, so this is where the piano is being played and this is where the guitar is being played, right? So that's where you take the pride of being an audiophile.
I have one last question for you, and that is, what are you trying to explore? We know that you work. There's not your day job, right? So, what is it that you're trying to explore through audio? What is that thing that drives you towards it? Do you want to talk about that?
Okay. So my goal here in audiophile community, or I would say a proud member of a community, is that I would want to be able to experience audio as it's meant to be, right? Say for example, if Ed Sheeran or Beethoven or someone must have recorded the audio, or must have recorded their symphonies, must have recorded their mixes in in a particular manner, right? And the entire journey of being an audiophile is to be able to replicate that in your own studio or in your home house. Think about this: your audio is essentially played in a physical space, being converted into a digital manner, I mean in digital space, into zeros and ones, and then again represented back to you in physical space, right, through your earphones or speakers or whatever it is. So while it goes through a lot of transitions, you may have some losses, you may have some changes in this characteristic music. The goal here is to minimize those losses, minimize those variables, such that it almost feels like you're sitting in front of Beethoven while he's composing or while he's playing his instruments. So that's my goal here.
Perfect. So, this is the end of episode number two, but stay tuned for more. We'll be discussing the technicalities behind being an audiophile, what gear that one can go out and purchase, how do you even start understanding some of the things surrounding this big industry in itself. So, stay tuned and thank you so much, Uma. Thank you.
Thanks, Lalit. Thanks for having me.